There are 14 games on Saturday. Let's preview them all. Let's take a look at the things that we need to pay attention to for fantasy basketball. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I'm just about to throw another shrimp on the barbie. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel is there to make the NFL playoffs even more exciting right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first bet. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Also check out LockedOnDaily.com. You will find the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. It gets stuffed into your inbox 5 days a week. So get stuffing, I guess. Head across there. It's a 14-game Saturday. You know my thoughts on these days. They are insane. They are ridiculous. They are stupid. And they are counterintuitive to the NBA being a better product. Simple as that. It is insane to do this. Here they are doing it. Unless you are an everyday sport like baseball where they play 7 days a week and everyone has to play every day, you don't need to do this. Especially when there is one game tomorrow. One. And before you clickety-clack, I know that it's the NFL championship game. I know that. We don't need 14 games. We actually don't. It's pretty easy not to do it. We're here to talk about those games, though. On Fluoride Day, shout out to Fluoride. There's 14 of them, and it is an early start. Early start. So be aware, get ready to set your lineups. This is another France game, another Paris game. But this one doesn't start at the same time as the last one, which started 2 p.m. Eastern, I believe. This one starts midday Eastern, 4 a.m. here for us in Australia. And then we've got just a slew of early ones. So you've got that one. There's a 3 p.m. Eastern game. You've got a 5:30 p.m. Eastern game. You've got a 6 p.m. Eastern game. And then you get into the regular schedule. And the last one goes at what time is that? 7:30 p.m. Pacific, the last game. It is a very, very spread out day of games. So there you go. Let's get in and preview them. We're on 14 games on. You are not streaming. We're not doing a stream of the day at the end of this show. There's no point in doing that because there's 14 games on. You will have a pretty full roster. Everybody's playing unless they're Blazers or they are Thunder players. Simple as that. Actually, the Blazers playing? I think the Blazers are actually playing anyway. Yeah, but nobody. You don't have any. You don't have any scope to move things through. You don't have any scope to create that extra gap. Doesn't exist. All right, first game is the Paris game. It's Indiana and San Antonio over in France. This is coming up over this next period of time. We had 3 or 4 weeks of action where it was just streamable days every day. That ends now. We are in a period of up and down, of big and small. 3, 14, 1, 12, 5, 11. So there are many teams with bad schedules. There are many teams, and when I talk about schedule plus and schedule minus, when I'm talking schedule minus, these teams have 0 quality games over the next 6 days. 0. And if I talk schedule plus, they've either got 2 or 3 quality games over the next 6 days. Everyone else has 1 in 6 days. That's not much streaming, as you're aware. Pacers and Spurs. The Pacers are 1.5 point favorites here. That's a schedule minus spot for both of these teams because they've got really low schedule numbers. They don't play barely at all. What am I watching for? Aaron Nesmith played 18, 19 minutes last game. I don't think that he's going to be a 10 or 12 or maybe even a 14-team league guy. He gets incredibly overrated in traditional fantasy rankings because he doesn't turn it over, and that makes him look way better than he is. But it's his impact on Nembhard, it's his impact on McConnell, his impact on Mathurin that I think is important. On the Spurs side of things, Jeremy Sohan was great in 19 minutes. So what happens now? Does he play 22? Does he stay on the bench behind Castle? How long until he elevates back to 31 minutes? That's the thing to watch. I am going to, against my better judgment, and mainly because it fills up the screen nicely, talk about Two guys who are under 40% rostered, one from each team, who, if you do have the ability to stream them, they'd be the guy to look at. But yeah, you know how to do this. We're talking about Andrew Nembhard for the Pacers, and of course, the pencil Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. Cool. Actually, at this point, not a single player from either team is on the injury report outside of the out for season guys, Wiseman and Jackson. Nobody is on the injury report. Next game. Another early one. Nuggets, Wolves. Good matchup, hopefully. It is a schedule minus spot for Denver. The Nuggets are 1.5 point favorites here. Chanchar is out, and we did get the update on Donte DiVincenzo and his toe injury. He went and got a second opinion. They said there's a partial tear in the toe ligament, a stable turf toe issue, and he'll be reevaluated in 3 weeks. A reminder. Reevaluated is the term that every team is using these days for very specific reasons. It does not mean that he is back in 3 weeks. It means he could be back in 4, he could be back in 6, he could be back in 8. So the value of DiVincenzo had just started to push up. If you've got an ability to hold an IL, you do that. Nearly always you do that with someone who hasn't been ruled out for the season. But this doesn't mean that he's back in 3 weeks. It doesn't mean that he's back at the All-Star break. He might be, but it doesn't mean that. I would still expect around the beginning of March, 25th of February, maybe middle of March. It does improve slightly because if it was a full tear, and that's what they initially said. They said grade 3, which is full tear. They said if it was that, he was done for the fantasy season for sure. But now they've reevaluated it with a different doctor and said partial tear. So that does bring the timeline in a bit. But he's still not back in 3 weeks. Again, he might be. Very, very, very small chance. He might be. But that is just reevaluation. It's like the first next bit of news we get. We just won't hear anything about Donte until we get to that date. Unless they're the Bulls and they just lie about everything. But it's not. It's the Wolves. Chanchar's out, DiVincenzo's out, Terrence Shannon is out in this one. I want to watch Aaron Gordon because his minutes are very low. I don't believe you need to roster him. His game is always pretty bad anyway from fantasy. Well, it's not bad. It's just not elite. And the minutes aren't there. And I don't know if they're coming back. And we don't bother with it. And then on the Wolves, if Mike Conley plays 30 minutes, then yeah, he's a 12-team league player. But he didn't play 30 minutes in nearly any of these games, apart from the last one. And we'll see against another good opponent, although the last one wasn't against a good opponent. But against a good opponent here, do they play him 31? Does Dillingham get his 18, 19 minutes? Or do they lean heavy into the starters again? We do want to see this. Peyton Watson and Jaden McDaniels would be the stream. At the moment, Jaden McDaniels is playing out of his brain. You can roster him, of course. And the Wolves, as you'll note, aren't in a schedule plus spot, but aren't in a schedule minus spot, which being in a neutral position for the schedule is actually a W at this period. So if you wanted to hold on to McDaniels, we understand that a lot of this stuff won't hold, but his minutes are up. His usage is slightly up as well, and his defensive stats are up. So if you want to do it, you do it. Just don't think that it's... I would need to see 50 games of this from Jaden to believe that he's turned the corner into being a great or a very solid fantasy player. Because we've seen the runs before. I reckon at least twice or 3 times already this season. We've seen the runs and then... Well, seen the runs, and then, yeah, it dies away again because that's what he does. Let's look at the next one. Celtics, Mavs. Finals rematch. Yep, but a lot of players, obviously, well, not a lot. The main player, one of the 2 main players on Dallas isn't going to play. Boston's actually pretty clean, injury-wise. They're 7.5 point favorites to the Celtics on the road. It's a schedule minus spot for both teams, so meaning they have no quality games coming up in the next 6 days. None. Luka's out, Lively's out, Dante Exum's out, and then last game there was no Klay Thompson, there was no Najee Marshall, there was no Jaden Hardy, and there was no Dwight Powell. I don't know if those guys are going to play, but we saw with those guys out, you got Olivier Maxence Prosper, you got some 4 random minutes of Markieff Morris, you got Kessler Edwards starting, you got Grimes and Dinwiddie doing more. It's still obviously a little bit messy. Boston doesn't have anybody out at this stage, or nobody even on the injury report. But what we want to watch is Peyton Pritchard, because it has not been good for Pritchard at all. And last game, he played 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. He played 12 minutes for the rest of the game. And that fourth quarter was a blowout. His numbers are down across the board since Porzingis returned. And he honestly, at this point, there are many instances of holding him. I dropped him about 2 weeks ago in industry pickup. I dropped him. I was like, I can't with this. I need production. And there are other guys out there that I want. because I lost Doncic in that league, right? I needed someone else in, and he's doing nothing. And his value is as a points and threes guy who was doing it on 30 minutes a night without Porzingis on elevated shooting percentages, and they've all come down. So it's easy to hang on to what happened earlier in the season. That's easy to do. We say, well, look how good he's been. Look at his season overall ranking. But in the end, that doesn't mean anything. A season overall ranking when we're here in week 14 doesn't mean anything if the last 3 weeks and the trend of that and the circumstances of that are likely to continue. So that stuff doesn't matter. We have to make decisions and adjust as we go, and I think holding him is totally reasonable. But also remember, when we entered the season, nobody came in and said, yep, you know what, Peyton Pritchard's going to be a 29-minute night player who rolls top 80. We've got to draft him everywhere. Not a single person thought that because it didn't make sense with his role, his history, his shooting. None of that stuff made any sense. And then he went on like a 10-week hot streak. So if you are considering that, just again, that happened. But we are sort of now back in line with our initial estimations of him. On the Mavs, I want to see what they do with Grimes because his minutes are all over the place with guys in and out. He might start, he might not. Marshall might come back. Who knows what happens here? It's very hard to look at Grimes as anything more than a schedule-type streamer, and they've got a bad schedule here, obviously, with no quality games coming up. And how they continue to use that position is going to be interesting. Al Horford and Spencer Dinwiddie, they're not must-roster players at all. They are just streaming targets, and that is, if you've somehow got that ability, you do it. The next game is going to be probably really interesting, I would say. Not because it's good, or not because they're good teams, because there's a lot of fantasy moving pieces here. It's Miami, it's Brooklyn. The Heat are 8-point favorites here on the road in Brooklyn. It's a scheduled minor spot for both teams. Don't let that dissuade you from adding Khalil Ware, because if you add him, you will start him. It doesn't matter there are no quality games for the Heat. He would be a startable player. It matters for other guys like Jovic or Jaquez, or if you really want to get sexy, Pelle Larsson. Probably not. Jimmy Butler suspended, second game of his 2-game suspension this time. Joshie Richardson's going to be out. And then on the Nets, Bojan's not going to be... he's not playing. I don't think he's playing a game this season. Bojan Bogdanovic, he's out. Trent Watford's going to be out. Cam Johnson, I think, is going to miss quite a bit of time here again. That's his third ankle injury. Do not be surprised if Cam Johnson does not play for the Nets again. Whether he's traded to a new team or they just keep him out with his ankle all season. Do not be shocked if he is done for the year for Brooklyn. But he's going to be at least out a week or so here. Cam Thomas remains out. Nothing for me to suggest he's back in a week either. I thought he might be back this week. Doesn't appear to be. Max Lewis is out. And then the ones we don't know are Zaire Williams, Ben Simmons, and old mate D'Angelo Russell, who missed... Simmons and Russell missed the last game. Now, Russell's was a back-to-back situation, which we thought would happen. That made a lot of sense, given where they are. I expect that he's available to play, but we just don't know. And Simmons missed 2 games with illness. He hasn't played in 3 consecutive games. Ben, the last time he played was last Friday, so it's 8 days removed. I expect that he returns, but how would I know? Khalil Ware is what we want to watch in Miami, and realistically, it's just continuing about the minutes because he's playing a million minutes now. They're getting cooked in games; he's getting thrashed, but he's putting up big numbers. He has moved, and 2 days ago, I put a bet on him for Rookie of the Year at $5. He's into $2.90 in after one more game. He is by far the favorite, and it's in that weird situation where I can actually cash out that bet if I wanted to and actually make money back on it. I won't, because I've got a nice little grouping of Rookie of the Year bets, which is it's literally the only thing I've bet on this season. But he's flying at the moment. I cannot see him being reduced that much, but still that pairing needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work, him and Bam together. On the Nets, Noah Clowney. I know that you think he's trash. That's okay. I'm not here to tell you that he's good. I'm not. What I'm here to tell you is they are prioritizing his minutes at this point, and that it's important. You'll see Keon Johnson start and go to the bench, and Tyrese Martin start and go to the bench. Well, Zaire Williams played 25 minutes, but Clowney gets 28, 29, 31, 32. Leads the team in shots, leads the team in shots, leads the team in shots. That's important to note. Clowney also has had, I think, blocks in 3 consecutive games. For all of the talk that he doesn't do any of that, it's back a little bit. So that makes it interesting to me to watch. Because if he can be a 32-minute-a-night player who gets 12 points with 2 threes and 6 rebounds and a steal and 1.5 blocks, it's a 12-team league player. It's a back-end guy, but that could easily ramp. So we're just watching again. Are they continuing to give 30 minutes a night every night to him? I think they are, and that's what we want to watch. In terms of streaming guys, well, Ben Simmons, if he's available, would be very much in play, but how they work the Simmons, Russell, Martin, Johnson, Williams, Evbomwan grouping of nonsense, we'll see. And then Huckers is still a stream option. I do not believe he's a 12-team league guy. They have no quality games coming up in the next 6 days. I do not believe that you need to prioritize adding Triple H, Jaime Jaquez Jr., because you know that I don't think he's very good. And you might have differing opinions, and that's how you make your differing judgment on that one. The next game is one that's hard to sort of judge because both teams are on a back-to-back. They're both playing on Friday with only 3 games on. They're both bad teams, and they're both playing here against each other on Saturday. It's the Pelicans and it's the Hornets. Both teams are in negative schedule spots. Ingram's going to be out. Herb Jones is going to be out. Absolutely no idea whether Brandon Ingram returns or not. What we heard, or what I heard from Jake Fisher the other day, saying that there's some talk that he might return a week before the trade deadline. How convenient for him. But that's still a while away. That's another week out at least. And then what we don't know is Zion Williamson's status. Now, I believe Zion will play. Zion is out on Friday, but I think that should mean it's first of a back-to-back. He should play Saturday. On the Hornets, Brandon Miller is out for the season. Trey Mann will remain out. And then they have done the thing. They are playing 2 bad teams in a row here, Charlotte. Portland and New Orleans. Do they want to lose? Because what you've seen is Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball on the injury report as questionable. I would say there is 0 chance that these guys play both games. If they play on Thursday, LaMelo and Bridges, expect them to be out on Friday. If they are out on Thursday, well, I still think it's 50-50 for Friday, honestly. I think you're going to see a lot of these teams, when they play against the other bad teams, that everyone's just going to be out. So just be ready for it. Seth Curry and Cody Martin are both listed probable on Friday, so I'll put them probable here on Saturday too. Yves Missi is probably the stream for the Pelicans. Also, by the way, the Pelicans not playing BJ Boston anymore. They're preserving his 50-game limit. Also on the Nets, I believe Tyrese Martin's at 41 out of 50 games. So he's only got 9 left unless they convert him. Again, you need to watch this when we're talking about these bad teams and 2-way contract players. Because Jared Butler's being sat down in Washington. BJ Boston's being ruled inactive now because he doesn't have days left. Be aware of these things. And I think what they'll do is they'll make trades at some point and open up roster spots and convert Jared Butler or convert Tyrese Martin or convert BJ Boston. But at the moment, they're sitting them. Yves Missi is the stream there. He's been dropped in a lot of spots, rightfully so. And we always want to see how he works alongside Zion. And then Nick Smith is the Hornets guy. Be aware, get ready for nonsense. But he might take 20 shots and hit 5 of them if LaMelo is out, which, maybe that floats your boat. Maybe it doesn't. Not really sure. Today's episode, I should have done this a lot earlier, but that's okay. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. With the NFL playoffs here, the first whistle, the final drive, so many different options FanDuel has for you, but more importantly, as a new customer, you can get $300 in bonus bets. All you do is you place a $5 bet, you win that $5 bet, and you get $300 in bonus bets. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of different bets they have, there's so many. You obviously do the straight up, who's going to win? You do the spreads, the game total, the individual team total, the anytime touchdown scorers, passing yard props, receiving yard props. All of that stuff is available on the FanDuel app, which is so easy to use. So go to FanDuel.com and join today. Get started with $300 in bonus bets. That is FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay. Let's go to the next game here. We're talking Pistons and Orlando Magic. Magic need to... why am I saying Magic and not the Magic? The Magic need to do something. They are struggling. And they're reincorporating their star players in Banchero and Wagner, but they're not doing anything good. It is a scheduled negative spot for Detroit. What we don't know with the guards, Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony. Suggs has been out a while with his back issue. Anthony's missed a couple with an illness. And then Gary Harris is another one who's in that guard mix. And then Goga Badadze. So we still don't have the answer. What happens with Goga and Wendell? And Goga's been out. I would try to hold as best as possible. I don't think that it's going to maintain top 100 numbers because I do think that Wendell will get at least the bulk of these minutes because of his fit with these other guys. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it, so we're still waiting. We're in the dark, waiting for an update on that. And in Detroit, outside of Jaden Ivey, there's nobody on the injury report. So what are we watching for with the Pistons? Because the thick hogsman, Tobias Harris, he's been terrible. And like I talked about the other day, I would try to hold Tobias Harris. I would very much try to hold Tobias Harris if I could. But I'm also very open to saying that he might be washed. And in shallower formats, that might make him a drop. He could change our opinions here. The thing is not just about like the shooting, which has been bad. Like, it's just, where's the usage gone? Why are you uninvolved when the team needs you? And everyone else is stepping up, but you're not. Even though they're winning, but he's still playing a million minutes. And that gives him a level of floor value. On the Magic, Paolo Banchero couldn't have been worse last game. He's been actually pretty bad since he returned from injury. So I want to see that improve. I want to see the efficiency improve and continuing to see the interplay with him and Franz and usage distribution and all that stuff. Couple of easy streams, Leaky Beasy and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Of course, if Suggs and Anthony are ruled out, you look at Mr. Black as an option there as well. And then maybe Wendell Carter if Goga remains on the sidelines, which again is very distinctly possible. The next game, it's the Kings. It's the Knicks. We're in New York for this one. Both teams in a scheduled negative spot. The Knicks are 5-point favorites. Only one player currently on the injury report, and that is Mitchell Robinson, who remains out and not coming back anytime soon. Darren Fox has been in a weird shooting slump. He does have an issue with his finger, and that is clearly... Is it clearly? I would assume that is what is impacting him, and we'll see whether that can turn around. On the Knicks, Mikal Bridges, again, continues to be inconsistent. Him and OG Anunoby. The minutes are fine, although there was a weird game lately where Bridges' minutes dropped down, but like there's not a lot to look at on the Knicks, to be fair. And then stream guys, Keon Ellis is the stream guy for your steals in Sacramento, but he's played 21 minutes each of the last 2 games. That's not enough. And then Juice McBride is also, not enough, but that's a deeper league sort of a play in that spot. The next game. We're going to Cleveland. The Cavs are on a back-to-back, but they're hosting the Houston Rockets here. This is a scheduled plus spot for Houston. Jabari Smith's going to be out. What we know is that Evan Mobley is out and Isaac Okoro are out for the game on Friday. There is a chance that they return in this one, but we don't know. Same with Karis LeVert. What we're watching for Houston is Jollibee, Jalen Green, because are we now in for a 2-week prolonged slump after his 2-week hot streak? Is that what we're going to get? How quickly does he bounce back out of it? Because the other thing you would note with Jalen Green is the last 2 games haven't been good. So he's played 30 and 32 minutes. And when he plays well, he plays 36. So we see that Ime goes, oh yeah, it's not happening. Come back a little bit. So we will continue to watch that. Dylan Brooks and Max Strus are probably the stream guys. And of course, if Mobley is out, it just opens it up for a lot more guys like Dean Wade. It opens it up for George Niang if you're into that sort of thing, which you probably shouldn't be, to be honest. The next game. We are in Atlanta. This is a rematch. We just saw this game. Toronto beat the Hawks 2 days ago, yesterday actually, and now we're rematching them. The Raptors are in a schedule minus spot. The Hawks are in a schedule plus spot. Emmanuel Quickley is out, and we did get updates on these other guys, which I didn't have at the time of me beginning this show, but they have chucked through an injury update for these Raptors guys. Ochai Agbaji is out. Kelly Olynyk is out, and Jamal Shed is not on the injury report. So we didn't know those things. So that should give more value there to Chris Boucher. John Mobo has been recalled from the G League, I believe. I'm just going to double check that. No, he's still in the G League, so he's not going to play. So there is an opportunity there for Boucher to get a little bit more done with Olynyk out, and with Agbaji out, it just means more for Bruce Brown. It means more for Davion Mitchell in that position as well. For the Hawks, Zach Ricochet is out. Larry Nance is out, and I'm going to go ahead and assume that Jalen Johnson is out. I have no idea because they haven't given us an actual injury update on this. I'm expecting that this is not a one-day thing. If we get a questionable tag or a day-to-day on Jalen Johnson, I'll feel very good about it. I don't think we're getting that. But we haven't got it yet. I'm expecting at least a couple of weeks here, and I wouldn't be shocked if we get a month plus. If we get a reevaluation in 3 weeks for Jalen Johnson, I'd almost consider that good news with how that injury could end up turning out. I don't know that, though. So Ricochet remains out. Larry Nance is out. And I think Clint Capella, who sat the second game of a back-to-back with knee soreness, I think he'll be available, so I'll put him there as probable. For this one, Bruce Brown's last 3 games have been great. But I don't really care until he plays 25 minutes. It's almost impossible for a perimeter wing player like Brown to be a 12-team league guy consistently playing 20 minutes a night. That's almost impossible to do. In the last 3 games, he's done it. But how do you continue that? You can't, really. So I just want to continue to see what they do with his role. On the Hawks, Bogdan Bogdanovic, terrible all season. Last game went bananas. It was on absolutely high-level shooting with not a lot else going on. So we do need to see, hey, can that continue? Can he look a little bit better? Does he move back into our 12-team discussions? Of course, we're watching Vic Krejci because I think he is an ad with the presumed absence of both Ricochet and Jalen Johnson here. And then, of course, with Toronto, when somebody's out, it's time for Dick, and Grady can be used to stream. But we don't feel anything more about that. We don't get any Dick excitement levels rising because he might have a decent scoring game. He needs 2 guys out for me to feel very comfortable about inserting Dick into my lineup. We've got more games we're going to come back and talk about. But today's episode is also brought to you by Talkspace. Therapy is a game changer. It can help you manage stress. It can help you improve your communication, your relationships, your work. Helps all this sort of stuff in so many different areas. But yeah, finding a therapist is tough. Finding the time in your schedule can be tough as well, and that's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider, making getting the help that you need easy, accessible, and affordable. And with Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match a licensed therapist, usually within 48 hours, who fits the needs that you specify. And you have your sessions from home. You can message your therapist between appointments. And Talkspace is also covered by many insurance plans. And for most insured members, there is a $0 copay. It has never been easier to prioritize your mental health. And as a listener to this show, you get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA and you use the code SPACE80 to match with a licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA, enter the promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month. That is Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA, and the promo code is SPACE80. Let's go through these final couple of games now. What is the next one we're looking at? Let's bring it up. After that Raptors-Hawks game. Oh, geez, that will look pretty weird. Jazz and Grizzlies. It's a back-to-back for Memphis. It is a schedule plus spot for Utah, so we do need to pay attention. But like we detailed 4 or 5 days ago, the Jazz are in a run of games here against very good opponents. So that probably means that guys like Sexton, Markkanen, Collins, that they have their injuries miraculously healed, ready to disintegrate at any point. But they are miraculously healed for these games, I think. Jordan Clarkson won't play, though. Johnny Juzang won't play. I don't think Cody Williams will play after spraining his ankle. It looked pretty significant. I think he might miss a bit of time. They haven't given an update on it. Bryce Sensabaugh also missed the last game, and when guys are out and he's healthy, he's worth a go. But now it's just like, well, let's stash and see where it goes. And then for the Grizzlies, I don't expect that Marcus Smart plays, or Jake LaRavia, or Vince Williams. And then Ja Morant and Santi Aldama are both questionable for Friday's game. Ja Morant, he cannot go more than 3 games without a questionable tag. I think he's not going to play both these games. In fact, I'm pretty certain Ja won't play this game against Memphis, and that would mean that Luke Kennard and Scottie Pippen get a bump to be streamed in, but there's always someone in or out. And Santi's dealing with this illness. He's been terrible the last 2 games, and we'll see whether they give him extra playing time, or if he's healthy and if his production can go back. I'm thinking it won't, but also, obviously we need to see. On the Jazz side of things, I do want to see what John Collins gives us, but it's more like do they play him 30? Is it 27? What does it mean for Filipowski? What does it mean for Eubanks? What do his minutes look like? What does it mean for Collier? What does it mean for everybody? It's really just watching the Jazz garbage. And then Collier probably is your stream, and then Jalen Wells on the Memphis side strikes me as the stream guy. Next game, we go to Philadelphia and Chicago. In Chicago, this is a back-to-back for the Sixers. It is a schedule minus spot for the Bulls. Embiid's going to be out, and I expect that KJ Martin, Caleb Martin, Kyle Lowry are all out as well. Paul George is playing on Friday. I think there is a chance that he doesn't play on Saturday. And Andre Drummond is out on Friday, so I think he will return on Saturday. And Kobe White is out, of course. The Bulls lied, and he's out for at least a week here. Torrey Craig's out. And then Ayodosumu is on the injury report with that calf issue. He came back from the calf issue, and now this is not a back-to-back, and he's questionable. That is not great. And we'll see what that does. But it would explain the 23 minutes or so he played in the last game. And then Chris Duarte also questionable. Just on a side note, outside of this game, we just got an update on Atlanta. Trae Young is listed questionable with a hamstring. Interesting. But Larry Nance is off the injury report. Yeah, he's probable. Now, Larry Nance wasn't playing. He played when somebody was out as a center, either Capella or Kongwu, but otherwise he didn't play. I wonder if Jalen Johnson being out, and he's officially out, they've given no update, but he's officially out, but will they try Larry at the 4? That would be something to watch. 24 minutes of Larry Nance is probably enough to warrant a pickup, but I don't think we're getting that yet. But just watch that. Back to the Sixers and the Bulls. Josh Giddey played 33 minutes last game, and with White out and now Dosunmu questionable, it should be more minutes for Giddey. I would look at him as a sell high if I could, because I do think that when these guys return, he will be marginalized slightly down to 26-27, but everything is now opened up again for Giddey to get extra value. And then Yabusele is going to be a stream guy again for Philadelphia, and Lonzo Ball, I'm expecting to be a stream guy here for Chicago in his 24 minutes, again, more so for category leagues than for points leagues. The next game is the Lakers and the Warriors. The Warriors, I don't really know how to talk about them because things change every 5 minutes. It's a schedule plus play for the Lakers. The Warriors are 1-point favorites. Wood is out for the Lakers. Hood Schifino is out for the Lakers. But Jared Vanderbilt is about to return, first time in over a year with that foot issue. Do not expect him to be a 10 or 12 or probably 14 team league guy. It's going to take a lot of time to get his minutes up, and even when he does, he is a fringe guy at best. But he will have an impact on Finney-Smith, on Hachimura, on Hayes. Just watch how they utilize him. For the Warriors, Draymond will be out, Kuminga will be out, Kyle Anderson will be questionable. We need to see how Vanderbilt plays. That's something I want to watch, and how the impact is on those other forwards that I mentioned. And then for the Warriors, last game, Quentin Post was great. Trace Jackson-Davis barely played. Kevon Looney didn't play very much. So is Post actually going to be in this rotation? And the same goes with Guy Santos, who was great as well, and Moses Moody. But how do they all fit in? How does everybody get minutes? Is Jackson Davis a drop? I think at a lot of spots, yes. But this will give us more clarity on it as well. Because if he goes back and plays 17 minutes and they run these three centers, or we get more Moody and more Santos helper playing, look, there's lots of different ways that this can go awry. We already know that Dennis Schroeder's a drop and he's been pushed down to 20 minutes. Buddy's playing 20, but there's just too many guys. Pajemski's back. There's too many options here. So we watch Santos, we watch Jackson Davis, we watch Post, and we see what they do. Stream guys, it is Christie, it is Santos, it could be Post, but it is very, very much unknown for Golden State. The Wizards and the Suns is your next game in Phoenix, the Marcin Gortat Bowl. It is a schedule negative spot, schedule minus spot for Phoenix. They are 14-point favorites at home. Brogdon's going to be out. Bagley's going to be out. I thought Yusuf Nurkic was going to be out, but they've actually upgraded him to probable. Who knows if he's going to play or not? Probably not, but at least now that's another name in the mix. And Budenholzer's like, yeah, we'll see how we go. He's earned minutes. Okay. Just like Mason Plumlee earned minutes with his style of play. We'll see what that means for Nick Richards, and that's what we want to watch. How does Richards play? One good game, two bad ones. Not bad. One bad game, one good game, one mid game. How do they use him? That's probably more important. Is he 30 a night? Or is he 25 a night? And then it's Iguodala, then it's Plumlee. And then does Nurkic get back in? Is it small ball with KD and O'Neal? So many different ways they can go. And then on the Wizards, Bilal Coulibaly. His shooting continues to be a problem, but to me it's more about what the usage looks like and other stats apart from shooting. He is a tough one to hold given his production. I get that, but I probably would still try to do it if you can. Bub Carrington is going to be the stream guy there for Washington, who had a pretty good game last time out. And then Grayson Allen in Phoenix. And then your final game of the day is the Bucks and the Clippers. The Clippers, obviously an incredibly busy schedule period here, and now they move into a no streamable day zone. They're a schedule minus. They're 3-point favorites. What I don't know for this game in general, injury-wise, is Big Boom AJ Green, who's missed the last few with a quad issue. And then Chris Middleton sat the last game, not a back-to-back. I'm going to guess part of it was they had a plan already for Middleton to sit that game because the first of the back-to-back got cancelled and they tailored a lot of his workout stuff and recovery stuff around that. That is what I expect happens. So I'll say that he's on the probable side of questionable here, Middleton. Well, Jordan Miller was ill in the last game, and Chris Dunn didn't play, even though they were off that back-to-back. So just watch Chris Dunn, because if he's out, it means more for Amir Coffey, but it means more for Derek Jones, who's been playing really well. In terms of the Bucks, Bobby Portis is playing low minutes, 22 minutes a night. That is hard to look at him as a must-roster guy, but it just takes one little weird change from Glenn Rivers to mix it up and make him better again. And then on the Clippers, it's the Amir Coffey, Derek Jones performances. Jones has been ridiculous. He would be a streamer, but there's no streamable days coming up for the Clippers, so I'm not going to be overly interested in adding Jones. I wouldn't have thought he would start for you on most days, so I don't think there's any sort of priority there in grabbing Derek Jones. Let's take a look at some schedule-based plays now. Because we're not doing streams of the day here. And we don't have any back-to-backs Saturday, Sunday. Either the Sunday game is just Blazers and Thunder. But if we look at chunks, Saturday through to Wednesday, that is the next 5 days. So we're looking at streaming on Sunday, streaming on Tuesday, and Wednesday's an 11 game day, which probably isn't a stream day, but when I'm talking chunks, I do use 11 as my soft cutoff. Usually my cutoff is 9, but when I'm talking about streaming for chunks, I do go to 11, so that does count. So all of these players and these teams have 2 quality games in the next 5 days. So we're talking Lu Dort and the Thunder do, Tamani Kamara, who's probable with his illness, and the Blazers. Donovan Clingan, who's been upgraded to probable for Portland, while Ayton and Williams are going to be in and out of lineup. So you can probably go and add Clingan now, especially with this positive schedule, and see what they do. It's still going to be pretty messy, I think. Aaron Wiggins is there, and then the Warriors also have the 2 quality games coming up. So Buddy Hield, maybe, but you look at Pajemski, you look at Post, you look at Santos, you look at Moody. There are just so many different options here. But if you were rationalizing a reason to hold on to Trace Jackson-Davis, well, they are one of only 3 teams in the next 5 days who play 2 streamable days. They are the only team that has that in those next 5 days. And the last little bit of info we're going to look at is the 5s and 2s. In the next 7 days, nobody plays 5 games. But there are 3 teams who played 2. The Pacers, the Spurs, and the Bucks. So your fringe Bucks, not that you're really that interested in Gary Trent or Big Boom AJ, but 2 games, 7 days for the Bucks. But that might add a question onto what do you do with Chris Middleton? Is that worth a hold? And for some of you, the answer will be yes. And for some of you, the answer will be no. But the answer for me now is this show over? Is yes, because that's it. That is a 14-game preview. And be aware, again, early start, midday Eastern start. Get your lineups set, get your lineups locked, get that all ready to go, and be ready for a million injury updates, a million interesting things that happen through the day as well. And while you're doing that, hit the thumb on this video, but also remember to hit the thumb on yourself. Get the positive thoughts rolling. Be critical, be balanced, but also understand that there is something good that happened. And that is really, really important to even acknowledge it. You don't have to celebrate it. You can, but you don't have to. Just acknowledge it. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.